first experience in fieldwork for this semester involved observing people with disabilities taking part in wheelchair basketball and also participating in the sport ourselves. This took place at the Sterling Leisure Centre in Mirrabooka. Now, in order to reflect on my experience, I'm going to utilise the Gibbs reflection model. Now, for context, we were there for an hour-long session which began with an explanation of the sport, and the two leaders who play at state and national level gave a description of themselves and their disabilities, both of whom have been in wheelchairs since young children with little to no movement in their legs, but have been playing wheelchair basketball for over 10 years. After this, we took part in a few games and relays to get a feel for actually using and manoeuvring the wheelchairs before getting into teams and playing the sport. My thoughts whilst there were positive. When watching the two players demonstrate, I was in awe of how easy and effortless they made it look, and they really seemed to enjoy themselves, which was great to see. Afterwards, I was left thinking about how I would be and how my life would be if I was in a wheelchair and spent my time playing this sport. I also felt that I had found a new respect for people who use wheelchairs. It must take a lot of practice to get used to it. I found it quite difficult. My feelings during the event were really positive. I felt rather happy and surprisingly comfortable in the environment despite how nervous I had been prior to arriving at the leisure centre. And even though I wasn't very good at the sport, I still really enjoyed myself. Now, to evaluate, overall, I think the whole experience went really well in the sense that everyone got involved and had a go and was really willing to get in there and seemed to have a good time, even though a lot of us did struggle and weren't very skilled or talented at the sport. And it is because of this that the games became a little chaotic, but it was still fun and insightful. When analysing the event, I think the factors that gave such a positive outcome was the class's entire attitude towards the sport and our willingness to have a go and experience for a short while what using a wheelchair is actually like. I think that the whole point of this fieldwork and why it happened was so that we could truly learn to understand what life is like using a wheelchair and to sympathise with those that do. Now, what might I have done differently? I think if I were to go again, I would just make sure I turn up with a more open mindset, because even though I did end up getting involved and in task, it took me a while to settle in and feel comfortable. But if I hadn't been so nervous, I think I could have gotten more out of the experience. For future action, again, I think just being more open-minded to these kind of events would minimise the likelihood of a negative outcome, and I will keep this in mind for my 1-week placement in 2019. Overall, what I learned from this experience was how to move around effectively in a wheelchair and how to sympathise with those that use one every day.